This girl had a pure, beautiful appearance, but possessed incredibly sharp observational skills. On a crowded subway train, a delinquent young woman stealthily lifted a phone from a passenger's pocket. The girl immediately noticed this act. When the victim realized their phone was gone, they called it, hoping to locate it. In a panic, the thief tried repeatedly to silence the ringing phone, but couldn't. At this moment, the observant girl, from a distance, discreetly triggered the phone's alarm, drawing everyone's attention and rescuing the situation. Before that day, Ha Bin seemed like an ordinary girl. However, she had an extraordinary father. Her father, Tisu, was the nation's top criminal profiler. It was rumored he could deduce a suspect's identity just by glancing at a crime scene. That evening, a skeleton was discovered in a forest. Forensics confirmed the victim was a student. However, this time, after examining the scene, Tisu didn't offer any deductions and left abruptly, returning home. Though not a skilled cook, Tisu had prepared a lavish dinner. He even brought out a cake with lit candles. It turned out to be his daughter Ha Bin's birthday. Tisu and his wife had divorced years ago, and his wife had recently passed away. Wanting to better care for his daughter, he had moved into his ex-wife's house. That evening, Tisu went to the tutoring center, but waited and waited, yet his daughter didn't emerge. The center's teacher informed him that Ha Bin had stopped attending 2 months prior. A while later, Tisu received a call from the police station, informing him that his daughter had been involved in a fight with 2 other girls. As the officer at the station continued to reprimand her, Ha Bin's gaze drifted to the officer's desk. There was a photo of the officer and his daughter, practicing taekwondo together amicably. Instantly, Ha Bin understood the officer's mindset. She pretended to say that her father, a police officer, always told her to use her learned skills to protect herself. These words were a calculated ploy to align with the officer's own story and elicit sympathy. Sure enough, after hearing this, the officer's demeanor softened. Shortly after, Tisu arrived at the police station. The officer explained the situation. On Ha Bin and the 2 runaway girls, they found several stolen phones. However, all 3 vehemently denied stealing anything. Upon learning the incident occurred at a motel, Tisu immediately questioned his daughter. "Why were you at a place like that?" Ha Bin didn't answer, only insisting she wasn't a thief. With the professional instincts of a criminal profiler, Tisu noticed his daughter unconsciously biting her lip, a classic tell of deception in criminal psychology. This small sign made him begin to doubt her words. When he brought his daughter home, Tisu presented the birthday feast he had prepared. But Ha Bin simply opened the refrigerator, grabbed a container of salad, and ate it by herself. Tisu apologized to his daughter for his absence in her life over the years and promised to spend more time with her from now on. However, before he could finish, Ha Bin put down her bowl and coldly stated she didn't need his attention. Tisu's tone hardened, asking why she was associating with runaway girls and why she hid the fact she had stopped attending the tutoring center. Ha Bin still didn't offer an explanation, only saying she didn't need his fake concern. Faced with his daughter's coldness, Tisu felt a pang of heartbreak. Despite everything, he still tried to leave work early every evening to be home with his daughter. That night, Tisu heard a faint ringing coming from his daughter's backpack, while her own phone was in her hand. Coupled with the incident at the police station, Tisu began to suspect his daughter had indeed stolen someone's phone. So, he took the liberty of opening her backpack. Sure enough, inside a compartment was a phone that didn't belong to Ha Bin. Confronted by her father, Ha Bin simply replied that she was holding it for a friend. However, when pressed about who this friend was, she refused to divulge any information. Instead, she pointed out that he clearly didn't trust her. Tisu wouldn't back down, demanding she bring the phone's owner to meet him. Until then, he would confiscate the phone. Upon opening the device, he discovered all messages, call logs, and other data had been erased. That night, Tisu asked a friend to help trace the phone's owner. Unbeknownst to him, Ha Bin was eavesdropping from behind the door as he spoke on the phone. Later that night, after her father had fallen asleep, Ha Bin snuck into his room and retrieved the confiscated phone. Just then, the phone received a text message with a hostile tone, seemingly demanding the owner contact them immediately. The next morning, Tisu saw his daughter hurriedly pulling a suitcase out of the house. He immediately gave chase, suspecting she was being lured away by the delinquent girls and was about to run away. However, Ha-bin explained she was simply going on a school field trip. Ti-soo decided to drive her to the school gates. Out of habit, he carefully observed her micro-expressions. From a distance, he saw Ha-bin initially smile, then tightly purse her lips, the same telltale sign of deception he'd witnessed at the police station. Shortly after, the officer from the station sent Ti-soo the surveillance video from the subway. After watching it, he realized his daughter hadn't stolen the phone at all. Aware he had wrongly accused her, Ti-soo could only manage a wry smile. But that day, while on the field trip, Ha-bin didn't answer any calls or texts. Ti-soo paced restlessly at home, trying to decipher and understand the thoughts within his daughter's inner world. In a hazy dream, Ti-soo saw the apparition of his deceased wife. She seemed to understand the turmoil in his heart. Ti-soo, a brilliant criminal profiler, able to dissect a criminal's mind in an instant, couldn't understand his own daughter. The following morning, the police received a report of a crime. The scene was a warehouse located deep in the woods. Inside, a significant amount of what appeared to be ketchup was discovered and later confirmed to be human blood. Based on the sheer volume left behind, experts concluded the victim was deceased. However, the body remained missing. Ti-soo pleaded with his superiors to be assigned to the case. In truth, his exceptional abilities had earned him a planned transfer to headquarters. However, to remain close to his daughter, he'd willingly sacrificed this significant career advancement, choosing to stay in the local precinct. At the warehouse, Ti-soo meticulously examined every detail, overlooking nothing, just as he did with every case. That night, he experienced a disturbing dream. He saw his daughter, Ha-bin, entering the ominous warehouse. Awakening in the middle of the night, Ti-soo started to type an apologetic text to his daughter for his earlier suspicions. He thought better of it, deleting the message character by character. As darkness cloaked the town, Ti-soo returned to the warehouse alone to investigate further. There, he shared his theories with a newly assigned crime analyst. Ti-soo posited that the large quantity of what initially appeared to be ketchup suggested the perpetrator intended to dispose of the body at the warehouse. However, he believed the warehouse wasn't the primary crime scene. The missing body, he reasoned, indicated the perpetrator encountered an unforeseen circumstance during disposal, disrupting their original plan. Furthermore, the minimal amount of blood spatter at the scene would be difficult to use as evidence. This suggested the perpetrator possessed a working knowledge of criminal investigation procedures. The killer, he surmised, had undoubtedly destroyed the vehicle used in the crime, as it would likely contain traceable evidence like fingerprints. Based on Ti-soo's analysis, the police began searching for the missing vehicle. Sure enough, they discovered a recently burned car in the woods. The scene suggested the car had collided with something, perhaps a tree, causing someone to be ejected from the vehicle. Around the same time, a teacher informed Ti-soo that Ha-bin hadn't joined the school field trip. Ti-soo also discovered that Ha-bin had retrieved the cell phone he had previously confiscated. While investigating in the woods during the day, Ti-soo received a message from a friend who had located the phone's last known location. When Ti-soo saw the location, panic seized him. The phone's final ping was in the very woods where he stood. A chilling sense of unease washed over him. To be certain, Ti-soo provided a blood sample to compare with the blood found in the warehouse. The DNA didn't match, meaning the victim wasn't Ha-bin. He breathed a sigh of relief. But the relief was short-lived. He received a call from the hospital informing him of his daughter's involvement in a car accident. Arriving at the hospital, he observed Ha-bin's strangely calm demeanor, and his mind flashed back to the phone's last known location in the woods. A dangerous thought began to form. The only person not accounted for at the time of the crime was either the victim or the perpetrator. Eliminating Ha-bin as the victim, Ti-soo was forced to consider the horrifying possibility that his own daughter was the perpetrator. Adding to his suspicion, the circumstances of Ha-bin's accident that night raised a disturbing question: was it staged to conceal something? In fact, Ti-soo's suspicions were not unfounded. That night, Ha-bin had arrived at an intersection. She deliberately waited for the light to turn red, then crossed the street directly into the path of an oncoming car. Her actions seemed designed to obscure some marks on her body. The previous day, in the woods, the police had found the burned-out car. The scene indicated the car had likely struck someone. Thinking back to this and connecting it to his daughter's accident, Tae-soo's suspicion intensified. Despite this, Ha-bin's injuries were not serious. After her discharge from the hospital, Tae-soo brought her home. At that moment, news arrived from the police station. They had identified the person who rented the burned car. Surveillance footage revealed the renter to be a young woman. Alarmingly, Tae-soo recognized the woman's clothing as identical to what Ha-bin had been wearing that day. Furthermore, the police had compiled a list of phone numbers that had made or received calls near the crime scene on the day of the incident. Tae-soo was stunned to find his daughter's number on the list. Adding to the mounting evidence, a small red thread, presumably from the perpetrator's clothing or belongings, had been found at the scene. The following day, while Ha-bin was at school, Tae-soo left work early and went to her room. He discovered a small piece of metal wedged in the doorjamb, presumably a makeshift alarm to alert her to any intrusion. Ignoring his daughter's precautionary measure, Tae-soo entered her room, searching for anything with a red thread. Despite a thorough search, he found nothing suspicious. However, he noticed a drawer in Ha-bin's desk, securely locked. As he contemplated this, he heard Ha-bin's footsteps approaching. She reached her door and saw the metal piece still in place. But as she looked up, she noticed a small tack, previously positioned on the doorframe, had fallen to the floor. She instantly realized her father had entered her room while she was out. At the same moment, Tae-soo's eyes fell upon Ha-bin's backpack. Attached to it was a small, red, yarn decoration. In that instant, Tae-soo nearly lost control. He wanted to confront her immediately. But after a moment of hesitation, he slowly released his grip on the doorknob. Tae-soo's hesitation stemmed from a painful memory. He had once had a son. Years ago, his son and a much younger Ha-bin had wandered into the woods to play. They hadn't returned home that day. Eventually, the police found Ha-bin in the woods, covered in blood. At the same time, they discovered the body of a young boy at the bottom of a ravine. It was Tae-soo's son. Based on the evidence at the time, Tae-soo had suspected Ha-bin of harming her brother. In his grief and anger, he had relentlessly questioned his young daughter. During the ensuing struggle, a falling object had accidentally injured Ha-bin. His wife had rushed in, embracing a terrified Ha-bin. Through tears, Ha-bin had insisted she hadn't harmed her brother. Remembering this, Tae-soo was overwhelmed with remorse for doubting his daughter. This time, he resolved to contain his emotions and not confront Ha-bin immediately. Meanwhile, the police had obtained additional security footage related to the rental car. This time, the footage clearly showed the renter's face. Tae-soo saw the image and realized it wasn't Ha-bin, but the young woman who had clashed with his daughter at the police station. Song Min-ae, Tae-soo's friend, continued his investigation and discovered Song Min-ae's social media presence. To uncover the truth, Tae-soo posed as a flower customer to contact her, arranging a meeting that evening. However, the person who arrived wasn't Song Min-ae, but Jae-yeon, another young woman who had been with Song Min-ae previously. Accompanying Jae-yeon was a young man. The pair were impersonating Song Min-ae and her customer in a con. When the supposed customer didn't show, Jae-yeon and the man left in their car. Tae-soo followed, but the man spotted him. He sped off, and despite Tae-soo's pursuit, they escaped. That night, back at home, Tae-soo couldn't contain his suspicions any longer. He asked Ha-bin if she had seen Song Min-ae again since their encounter at the police station. Before Ha-bin could answer, Tae-soo revealed he knew about her deliberately stepping into traffic. Unexpectedly, Ha-bin confessed, explaining that she'd done it because life had felt meaningless since her mother's death. However, she insisted she hadn't seen Song Min-ae since the incident at the station. She burst into tears, pleading with her father to trust her. The next day, the police reviewed security footage and discovered Song Min-ae withdrawing cash from an ATM. Meanwhile, the man who had been with Jae-yeon the previous night was apprehended. He was packing his belongings, preparing to flee. Suspecting he and Song Min-ae had planned an escape, the police questioned him about her whereabouts. However, the man remained tight-lipped. A newly assigned analyst discovered Song Min-ae had 2 social media accounts. One was private, shared only with close friends, and contained numerous photos of her arms and legs. One photo revealed a bruise on Song Min-ae's arm, leading the analysts to suspect she might be a victim of abuse. Song Min-ae's public account painted a drastically different picture. It showcased a lavish lifestyle but contained no photos of herself. Further investigation revealed Song Min-ae had purchased weight loss medication online. The medication was also used to treat diabetes. Upon hearing this, Tae-soo connected it to the forensic analysis. The victim's blood found in the warehouse contained traces of the diabetes medication. Tae-soo was now almost certain the victim was Song Min-ae. At that same time, Tae-soo's colleague caught a girl withdrawing money from an ATM. However, this girl wasn't Song Min-ae, but another girl, a member of the group of delinquent girls Tae-soo had been following the night before. Before Yoon-jin was taken to the interrogation room, she managed to speak privately with Tae-soo. Because of the incident at the police station a few days prior, Yoon-jin knew that Tae-soo was Ha-bin's father. She told Tae-soo that, after the incident at the police station, Song Min-ae had said she wanted to meet Ha-bin. That was the last time she saw Song Min-ae. Tae-soo froze upon hearing this. That day, his daughter had clearly stated that she hadn't seen Song Min-ae after the incident at the police station. If Yoon-jin wasn't lying, then it was his own daughter who was lying. Tae-soo wanted to know why the two girls had met, but Yoon-jin made a demand. She wanted Tae-soo to release her. If he didn't, she would tell everyone that Ha-bin had met with Song Min-ae. Furthermore, DNA evidence had confirmed that the victim's blood found in the storage room belonged to Song Min-ae. The investigation subsequently confirmed that, after Song Min-ae's death, Yoon-jin and a man had taken her money and planned to escape. Therefore, the police focused their suspicions on this man and Yoon-jin. However, the police didn't have enough evidence to charge the man, so they had to temporarily release him and continue their investigation. During the interrogation, Yoon-jin didn't reveal anything related to Ha-bin. She also insisted that before the incident, she hadn't noticed anything unusual about Song Min-ae. So, Tae-soo found a reason to release Yoon-jin on the spot. Yoon-jin kept her promise and revealed the connection between Ha-bin and Song Min-ae. That day, Song Min-ae had lost her phone. After calling it, she discovered that Ha-bin had found it. To return it, the two girls arranged to meet, and the meeting day was the same day the incident occurred. While Tae-soo was busy with the case, Ha-bin went to the police station and lied, saying she was there to bring her father a change of clothes. In reality, Ha-bin had secretly looked at the case files on her father's desk at the police station. After reading them, she immediately returned home and burned the red ornament on her backpack. When he learned his daughter had been to the police station, Tae-soo quickly realized that someone had looked through the investigation files. Combined with Yoon-jin's words, the suspicions he had tried to bury for so long resurfaced. In fact, the incident years ago where his son fell from the cliff also had unresolved questions. After that incident, the police found a ribbon at the bottom of the cliff. Tae-soo remembered that when playing hide and seek, Ha-bin often used that ribbon to blindfold her younger brother. In a whirlwind of chaotic memories, Tae-soo returned home and directly confronted his daughter. He asked, "Did you get rid of Song Min-ae?" Unexpectedly, Ha-bin retorted to her father, "Do you really think my brother's death was just an accident? Do you honestly believe there was nothing suspicious about Mom's passing?" Hearing his daughter's chillingly indifferent, almost mocking questions, a fear unlike any he'd ever known gripped Tae-soo. At that moment, Captain Oh, the officer in charge of the investigation, arrived at Tae-soo's house. The captain had discovered Ha-bin's name on Song Min-ae's contact list. Only now did he realize that Ha-bin was Tae-soo's daughter. Captain Oh then questioned Ha-bin about her alibi for the day of the incident. Ha-bin remained calm, asserting that she had never been to the forest where the incident occurred. She then proactively explained her connection to Song Min-ae. According to Ha-bin, she only encountered Song Min-ae on the subway when she witnessed her pickpocketing someone's phone. Ha-bin had intended to report it to the police, but a minor altercation ensued between her and Song Min-ae. That was all. Regarding the day of the incident, Ha-bin insisted that she had been with her boyfriend the entire day. Ha-bin's explanation was nearly flawless, leaving no apparent loopholes, forcing Captain Oh to temporarily withdraw. However, Tae-soo still didn't trust his daughter. According to Yoon-jin, Ha-bin had found Song Min-ae's phone and arranged to meet her to return it. Song Min-ae disappeared after that meeting. Confronted by her father's questioning, Ha-bin shot back. Every time there's a murder, you suspect me. What am I to you, really? Ti-Su remained silent, his face etched with sorrow. Unbeknownst to him, late that night, Ha-bin was secretly searching online for news articles related to herself, seemingly verifying her own statements. The following day, Ti-Su visited Ha-bin's boyfriend to inquire about her alibi. Her boyfriend confirmed that on the night of the incident, he and Ha-bin had been together in a room all night. He also told Ti-Su that Ha-bin was a good person and pleaded with him, as her father, to stop doubting her. Ti-Su then visited Ha-bin's teacher, who also gave a positive assessment of her, similar to her boyfriend's. Ha-bin's boyfriend told her about Ti-Su's visit. Ha-bin simply smiled cryptically, remarking that having a criminal profiler for a father had its advantages, as it had made her a better liar. Later, Ti-Su and Captain O reviewed the security footage at the hotel. The footage confirmed that Ha-bin had indeed not left the room on the day of the incident. That evening, Ha-bin went alone to a locker area in a subway station. She attempted to enter a code to retrieve something inside. When she returned home and saw her father's car parked outside, she quietly approached it, seemingly enacting a secret plan. During dinner, Ti-Su, in a gentle tone, said that he would no longer doubt or hurt his daughter. Upon hearing this, Ha-bin suddenly mentioned that if he decided to transfer back to headquarters, she would be willing to leave with him, claiming a desire for a change of scenery and a fresh start. The next day, the police apprehended a group of teenagers. These were members of the same gang as Song Min-ae. These runaway kids were frequently involved in robberies. During questioning, Ti-Su noticed that the teenagers' testimonies were too consistent, clearly rehearsed. However, one girl in the group kept changing her story. Ti-Su believed this girl had a close relationship with Song Min-ae and could be the key to cracking the case. He decided to assign Di-hong, a new profiler with strong empathy skills, to interrogate the girl. With just a few gentle words of comfort, Di-hong got the girl to open up. According to her testimony, everything stemmed from a boy named Yang Min, the leader of the gang. After discovering that Song Min-ae had left the gang, Yang Min had repeatedly threatened to harm her. On the day of the incident, Yang Min was not at home. Ti-Su concluded that whether or not Yang Min was the main perpetrator, he certainly wasn't acting alone that day. He had an accomplice. Based on the characteristics of the crime scene, Ti-Su believed the perpetrator had two opposing personalities, meticulous yet disorganized. This suggested the crime was committed by two people with completely different personalities. Ti-Su ordered the investigative team to focus on those around Yang Min to find the mysterious accomplice. However, not wanting to continue suspecting his daughter, Ti-Su decided to withdraw from the case. That evening, he contacted a real estate agent, planning to sell his deceased wife's house and move with his daughter to where the headquarters were located to start a new life. Just then, Ti-Su received a call from a car owner. The man said that on the night of the incident, he had parked his car near the hotel where Ha-bin had been staying. The car owner provided Ti-Su with dashcam footage. After watching it, Ti-Su was shocked. The video showed Ha-bin sneaking out of the hotel that night. The suspicion Ti-Su had previously suppressed resurfaced, stronger than ever. To verify, he went to see Ha-bin's boyfriend. Finally, the boyfriend admitted that Ha-bin had indeed left the hotel on the night of the incident. Through Ha-bin's teacher, Ti-Su learned about another female student with the same name as his daughter's boyfriend. The student, named Soo-hyun, was supposedly Ha-bin's best friend, but Soo-hyun had run away from home and her whereabouts were unknown. That evening, Ti-Su visited Soo-hyun's father. He revealed that whenever Ha-bin called, Soo-hyun would immediately go out. But each time she returned, she looked very tired and exhausted. When Ha-bin came home that evening, Ti-Su noticed she had changed the keychain on her backpack. It was a gift from her boyfriend. Ha-bin brought up the subject of moving again and asked if her father had made a decision. But this time, Ti-Su changed his attitude, asserting that he wanted to solve the case in the forest before considering anything else. Clearly, Ti-Su's suspicion of his daughter was growing. At the same time, Yang Min arrived at the locker area in the subway station, trying to enter the code to retrieve something. But despite numerous attempts, he couldn't open the locker. What Yang Min didn't know was that a few hours earlier, Ha-bin had taken all the money from the locker. At home, Ha-bin searched for news articles related to the cases her father had solved. Then, she used a key to open a locked drawer. Inside the drawer was the large sum of money she had taken from the locker at the station. Soon after, Yang Min received a text message with a picture of the money. The next morning, Ha Bin asked her father to drive her to the library, saying she wanted to talk on the way. But throughout the drive, she remained silent. When they arrived, she simply said, "I hope your investigation goes well," and got out of the car. After getting out, Ha Bin didn't go to the library as she'd claimed. Instead, she ran straight to the subway station. There, she met with Yang Min. It seemed there was some sort of transaction between them. Unfortunately for them, Yang Min was apprehended by the police right at the subway exit. Meanwhile, after Ha Bin left the car, Su opened the glove compartment and discovered a red keychain belonging to his daughter. He immediately connected it to the red fabric found at the earlier crime scene in the woods. To prevent Ha Bin from destroying evidence, Su secretly switched the keychain on her backpack with an identical replica. Therefore, the keychain Ha Bin had previously burned was a fake, while Su kept the original. He took the real keychain to be tested and compared with the red fabric from the crime scene. He also prepared to interrogate Yang Min. Just then, officials from the prosecutor's office arrived. They informed Su that they had received a bribery complaint against him. After searching his car, they discovered a wad of cash matching the amount mentioned in the complaint. Su was immediately suspended from duty and forced to withdraw from the forest case investigation. Recalling his daughter's words in the car that morning, Su began to suspect Ha Bin was behind the bribery complaint. Because Su was removed from the investigation, the inexperienced replacement analyst couldn't handle Yang Min and was forced to release him. Yang Min left the police station just as Ha Bin was approaching. The two locked eyes, and in that moment, a cold, triumphant smile spread across Ha Bin's face. Shortly afterward, the results of the keychain analysis came back. It was a perfect match for the red fabric found at the forest crime scene. Furthermore, DNA found on the keychain matched the remains found in the woods. The test results revealed that the remains belonged to a different case. However, both cases had one thing in common: the red keychain. It was highly likely that the perpetrator in both cases was the same person. Captain O asked Su about the keychain's origin. Su remained silent for a long time, his face filled with shock and disbelief. Finally, he lied, saying the keychain belonged to a girl named Su Hyan, who used to be Ha Bin's best friend. However, Su failed to mention that Su Hyan had dropped out of school the previous year and subsequently disappeared. It was highly probable that the remains found in the woods were Su Hyan's. Soon after, Su received confirmation that the remains were indeed Su Hyan's. Moreover, Ha Bin's keychain contained Su Hyan's DNA. It was almost certain that his daughter was the one who had killed Su Hyan. Upon returning home, Su confronted his daughter and recounted his discoveries from the day. He directly asked Ha Bin to turn herself in. Faced with her father's words, Ha Bin maintained her usual composure. She said he only believed what he wanted to believe. With that, she said she would change her clothes and go to the police station to confess. However, just a few minutes later, a police car unexpectedly appeared in front of the house. It turned out Ha Bin had called the police, falsely accusing her father of assaulting her. The police believed her and took Ha Bin into protective custody. Sitting in the car, Ha Bin called her father and asked, "Why have you never asked me the real reason why I did this?" Hearing his daughter's cryptic words, Su was filled with confusion and distress. Meanwhile, due to lack of evidence, Yang Min, the leader of the runaway teen group, was released. Immediately after leaving the police station, Yang Min walked towards Ha Bin, who was standing across the street. However, Ha Bin was extremely cautious. Noticing the police tailing Yang Min, she quickly sent a text message canceling their meeting, telling him to wait for her next message. The police approached Yang Min and asked him if he knew Su Hyan. Through their investigation, they discovered that both Su Hyan and Song Min, the victim in the previous case, were members of the same runaway group. Yang Min denied knowing Su Hyan and implicitly warned his group members not to say anything incriminating to the police. While Yang Min and his group were being brought in for questioning, Su realized one member was missing. This was the girl who had helped the rookie analyst by revealing that Yang Min had no alibi for the previous night. After being betrayed by this girl, Yang Min had taken cruel revenge. Yang Min and the teenagers lived in a basement rented from a beautiful landlord named Xian He. When Su visited Xian He to ask about Su Hyan, she gave vague answers. However, Su noticed a distinct injury on her neck. The next day, the bribery case against Su was cleared. The investigation proved he had been completely framed. As a result, Su was allowed to return to the investigation. Captain O informed him that Yang Min's interrogation was proving very difficult. While Yang Min went to the restroom, Su secretly followed him. He directly asked Yang Min if he knew Ha-bin. Yang Min didn't hide it, admitting he'd known for a while that Ha-bin was Su's daughter. He immediately turned the tables, accusing Ha-bin of being the one who harmed Su Hyan. Faced with this accusation, Su continued to press Yang Min. Yang Min admitted that Su Hyan was indeed a member of his group. Su tried to extract more information. He bluntly stated that the police had found Su Hyan's body. Hearing this, Yang Min seemed shaken, even threateningly saying he was more curious about who had disposed of Song Min-ae. Clearly, Yang Min also suspected Ha-bin of eliminating Song Min-ae. Su quickly regained his composure, using his psychological analysis skills to counter. He spoke about Yang Min's parents, deliberately touching on his pain. As expected, Yang Min's emotions began to waver. Seizing the opportunity, Su fabricated a detail, saying Su Hyan's body was covered in wounds. Yang Min immediately fell into the trap, laughing and saying, "The body has been in the ground for a year. How could there be any marks left?" This inadvertently incriminated him, as Su had only mentioned finding the body, not that it was buried. Realizing his slip-up, Yang Min fell silent, gritting his teeth and saying nothing more. However, due to insufficient evidence, his superiors ordered Yang Min's release. They did, however, instruct the investigative team to keep him under 24/7 surveillance to prevent any suspicious activity. After being released, Yang Min returned home. Seong told Yang Min that the police had come to her asking about Jin. Yang Min instructed her to keep everything absolutely secret. He also asserted definitively that Ha-bin was the one who had harmed Min-ae. But they couldn't accuse her yet because the money was still in her possession. Yang Min promised Seong Hui that he would do everything he could to get the money back, and then he would leave this place with her. Meanwhile, Chief O went to see Jin's homeroom teacher to ask about her friendships. Jian lied, saying that Jin was an introverted person with no close friends. Ha-bin stood on the staircase, bowing slightly to greet the homeroom teacher. There seemed to be a secret between the two of them. In his office, the homeroom teacher sat lost in thought, staring at a blue knitted keychain on his desk. After some deliberation, he put the keychain into a drawer. That night, Jian quietly met up with Seong Hui and contacted Yang Min. He told Seong Hui that the police had come to the school asking him about Jin. During their conversation, both of them expressed worry about a secret being exposed. Seong Hui gently embraced Jian, showing that their relationship was not ordinary. Meanwhile, Ha-bin contacted Yang Min, requesting to meet that evening. Despite being under heavy police surveillance, Ha-bin confidently said she had a way to distract them. That same evening, the police received a report that Yang Min had overdosed on sleeping pills and had to be hospitalized. The superiors, worried about causing trouble, ordered all surveillance to be withdrawn. Nobody knew that in the hospital room, Yang Min had quietly changed out of his hospital gown and escaped. When Su arrived at the hospital, he only found an empty room. Yang Min had vanished. At the same time, an analyst found a photo at Jin's house. In the photo, a girl was standing next to Jin, but her face had been scratched out. Looking at the picture, Su felt a sense of familiarity and vaguely realized that the erased girl was his daughter. From this point, Su asked a friend to look up the list of phone numbers that Ha-bin had called most frequently in the past year. The results showed that Ha-bin had contacted 2 phone numbers regularly. What was significant was that both of these numbers belonged to the same person, a woman named Jisoo. The woman who owned both phone numbers was Ha-bin's mother and Su's wife. Su tried calling one of the 2 numbers and discovered that the phone connected to that number was in his daughter's locked drawer. Upon opening the drawer, he found the phone and a photo. The screen showed Ha-bin in a picture with Jin. This was the same photo that had been found at Jin's house, with the image of Ha-bin having been scratched out. This confirmed that the girl next to Jin was Ha-bin. That night, as agreed, Yong-min arrived at a forest. When he saw the forest in front of him, Yong-min was confused, not knowing how Ha-bin knew about this location. In fact, for the past year, Yong-min had frequently asked the female members of his gang, especially Song Min-ae, to go to this forest. He would designate a tree with a red string tied around it, telling Song Min-ae to take the bag of money placed at the base of the tree. Each time she completed the task, Yong-min would take a wad of cash from the bag to pay Song Min-ae. However, one day, Song Min-ae went to the base of the tree as usual, but didn't find the bag of money anywhere. She reported the matter to Yong-min, but he didn't believe her and accused her of embezzling the money. Out of anger, Yong-min abused her. Unable to endure the abuse, Song Min-ae decided to secretly take Yong-min's bag of money and run away. She hid the bag of money in a storage locker in a subway station. One day, Song Min-ae took the bag of money onto the subway, unaware that Ha-bin was secretly watching her. Ha-bin had seen the entire scene of Song Min-ae hiding the bag in a storage locker. From then on, Ha-bin began to follow Song Min-ae. Not long after, one day while Song Min-ae was picking someone's pocket on the subway, Ha-bin intentionally turned on the police alert sound on her phone, pretending that someone had reported a crime. She approached Song Min-ae, acting kind and offering to help her hide in a nearby hotel. At the hotel, Ha-bin deliberately tried to win over Song Min-ae, pretending that she was also running away from home, and even asked for Song Min-ae's phone number to stay in touch. However, Song Min-ae refused to leave any contact information. Ha-bin immediately changed her approach and called the police to expose Song Min-ae for stealing. The incident was taken to the police station, and in the process of recording the information, Ha-bin obtained Song Min-ae's name and ID number. A few days later, Ha-bin secretly took Song Min-ae's phone and installed a tracking device on it. Then, she contacted Song Min-ae, saying she wanted to meet to return her phone. At this time, at the forest, Yong-min met with Ha-bin. Yong-min questioned why Ha-bin had done all these things, but without waiting for her answer, he deduced that it was all related to Ha-bin's deceased mother. Yong-min admitted that he had extorted money from Ha-bin's mother. Ha-bin questioned the reason, and Yong-min showed her a video. In the video, Ha-bin's mother was digging in the forest. Next to her was a corpse, which was Eo-jin, Ha-bin's friend. Years ago, Yong-min had accidentally seen Ha-bin's mother burying the body and secretly filmed it. Now, he was using that video to threaten and demand that Ha-bin return the money she had taken from him. While the two were arguing, a mysterious person wearing a helmet appeared and helped Ha-bin subdue Yong-min. Ha-bin rushed home but discovered that her drawer had been broken open by her father. The phone inside was also gone. Tae-soo, Ha-bin's father, had taken the phone to a repair shop, wanting to know what secrets it held. While waiting for the phone to be repaired, Ha-bin sent the video from Yong-min's phone to her father, questioning him about Eo-jin's disappearance and his relationship with her mother. Tae-soo couldn't answer. At the same time, Eo-jin was still the focus of the investigation. When the phone was repaired, the technician said that there was a location tracking application inside, usually meant for two devices connected to each other. Checking the information, Tae-soo discovered that the phone number being tracked belonged to Ha-bin's mother. Following the tracking signal, Tae-soo arrived at a shopping mall. Based on the staff's directions, he discovered that Ha-bin had just visited a psychological clinic there. Tae-soo asked the doctor and learned that his daughter had come to review her mother's treatment records. Tae-soo was shocked to learn that his wife had been treated for depression there before her death. Leaving the shopping mall, Ha-bin noticed someone following her. It was the mysterious helmeted person from the other day. After driving for a while, Ha-bin got out of the car, confronted the mysterious person, and asked their identity. The helmeted person suddenly ran away without saying a word. Meanwhile, Yong-min returned to the basement where his group gathered. He suspected Seomi, who was connected to him, was the mysterious helmeted person, because the meeting with Ha-bin on the mountain was only revealed to Seong-hui. However, Seong-hui denied everything. Yong-min demanded that Seomi sell her house to gather enough money to flee, planning to leave as soon as he got the money back from Ha-bin. However, Yong-min had no idea that Jeon-tae had secretly taken a picture of the meeting between Yong-min and Ha-bin in the forest the night before. To investigate the case, two analysts under Tae-soo's command went to the school to meet with Jeon-tae, but were informed that he had unexpectedly requested leave. This made the analysts suspicious because since the police had contacted Jian-Ti, he seemed to have completely changed his lifestyle, exhibiting many suspicious signs. In addition to approaching Jian-Ti, the police continued to closely monitor Yong-min, who was suspected of being involved in the BEM case. During the surveillance, they discovered that Yong-min had gone to the mountains to meet someone. At this location, the investigation revealed 3 different sets of footprints, 2 sets belonging to Yong-min and another man, and the other set potentially belonging to a woman. Coincidentally, this area was the same place where Eo Jin's body had been found. The analysts concluded that the choice of this location for the meeting suggested that all 3 individuals likely knew Eo Jin. Through the residential complex's security, the police learned that Yong-min frequently went to Jian-Ti's house at night to harass him, indicating that Yong-min and Jian-Ti had known each other previously. At the same time, Ti-Su received the audio recordings of his wife's therapy sessions at the clinic. He discovered secrets that both his wife and daughter had been hiding for a long time. Before her death, his wife had been very happy that Ha-bin had finally made a close friend. Previously, for many years, Ha-bin had always been different from other children. She didn't laugh when watching comedies, always played by herself, had a cold way of thinking, and didn't integrate with her peers. To help her daughter become normal, Ha-bin's mother divorced Ti-Su, dedicating all her time to caring for and supporting her daughter. After many years of effort, on Ha-bin's birthday, she brought a friend home for the first time. That friend was Eo Jin. To celebrate this special day, Ha-bin's mother prepared a lavish feast for her daughter and Eo Jin. During the birthday party, Eo Jin gave Ha-bin a red knitted keychain, and Ha-bin's mother gave Eo Jin a cell phone. She hoped that her daughter's condition would gradually improve because of these positive changes. However, things took a turn for the worse. In the days that followed, the mother discovered that Ha-bin was frequently skipping extracurricular classes, coming home late, and beginning to associate with teenagers with bad behaviors. It seemed as though Ha-bin was trying to find someone. Worried about her daughter, her mother decided to meet with Eo Jin to get a clear picture of the situation. Unexpectedly, Eo Jin bluntly said that the person Ha-bin was looking for was herself. However, instead of confronting the issue, Eo Jin chose to avoid it, skipping school, not answering phone calls, and avoiding meetings. When Ha-bin's mother asked the reason, Eo Jin emphasized that she already knew the cause. These words confused the mother, but at the same time, she understood what Eo Jin meant. Ha-bin was not normal. Determined to help her daughter return to normal, the mother demanded that Ha-bin not contact Eo Jin anymore. However, Ha-bin resolutely opposed it, insisting on meeting with Eo Jin. During the argument, Ha-bin noticed a tremble in her mother's actions, as if she was afraid of her. This made Ha-bin even more certain that her mother also suspected she was the cause of her younger brother's accident years ago, just like her father had thought. Faced with Ha-bin's relentless questioning, the mother stood silently, not knowing how to respond. Through the doorway, she saw her daughter losing control, frantically smashing things in her room. From that day on, the relationship between mother and daughter became extremely strained. Some time later, the mother went to see a psychologist for advice. She broke down in tears, saying that her daughter had killed a dog. When she found out, she had helped her daughter bury the dog. As she spoke, she cried and desperately admitted that she didn't know how to face her increasingly abnormal daughter. After listening to the recording of his wife's therapy session, Ti-Su realized that the dog his daughter was supposed to have disposed of might not even exist. The real victim could very well be Eo Jin. The body that his wife buried was likely Eo Jin's. Recalling what Yong-min had said a few days ago, Ti-Su felt that the details about Ha-bin's persistence in sticking to Yong-min might be the key to solving this mystery. Therefore, Ti-Su returned to the police station and requested to find Yong-min's whereabouts. At the same time, he also provided additional clues from the surveillance cameras of Jian-Ti's apartment. The surveillance camera footage showed that the previous night, Jian-Ti had left his apartment wearing rain boots. This was clearly unusual. Ti-Su immediately ordered an investigation of the surrounding areas, especially places where people might go fishing, suspecting these signs might be related to the case. Meanwhile, at a fishing spot, Jian-Ti dreamed that his hands were covered in blood. When he woke up from the nightmare, Seong Hui appeared. Jian-Ti, sounding pessimistic, said that he just wanted to tell the truth now because he was overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. Seong Hui tried to comfort him and advised him to keep the secret for a little longer, even if only to maintain their current lives. However, their meeting was secretly monitored and photographed by Yong Min. Seeing his woman meeting with Jeon Tae privately, Yong Min flew into a rage, lunging at Jeon Tae and physically assaulting him. Just at that moment, the police suddenly appeared. Yong Min quickly ran away but was stopped by Tae-soo, who drove his car towards him. Tae-soo immediately questioned Yong Min about the video of his wife burying a body. Tae-soo insisted that his wife was not a murderer, but was only hiding a body. The person who actually harmed Eo Jin was Yong Min, and his wife had mistakenly believed that her daughter was the murderer. However, Yong Min firmly denied it. Tae-soo changed tactics, threatening Yong Min to never appear before his daughter again. That night, Jeon Tae was summoned by the police for questioning. Even so, he remained steadfastly silent, not revealing any secrets. Tae-soo felt stuck because of the witness silence and the scattered clues that the case had left behind. Almost collapsing, when he returned home, he hugged a family photo in his hands, recalling his wife's words from her therapy session. In it, his wife had said that Ha-bin may indeed be different from other children, but she absolutely could not harm her younger brother. She also said that, not wanting to become a suspicious person like her husband, and not wanting Tae-soo's suspicions to harm their daughter, she had decided to divorce him. Remembering these words, and when looking at the photos of his wife and daughter, Tae-soo couldn't hold back his tears. That night, when Ha-bin returned home, Tae-soo openly shared his thoughts. He believed that his daughter's association with troubled girls was an act of revenge for her mother. However, now Tae-soo hoped that Ha-bin could tell him the whole truth. He promised his daughter that from now on, whatever she said, he would believe her. But even so, Ha-bin remained silent. She didn't trust her father. It turned out that on the day her mother died, Ha-bin had witnessed her father, with the look of a cold demon, pushing her desperate mother to the brink. Tae-soo remained silent, not answering this question. He didn't argue, but only said, "Wait for me. I will definitely investigate everything and find out the truth." Ha-bin didn't know that Tae-soo's silence was actually to protect her. One night, a few years ago, Tae-soo returned home and found a strong smell of gas in the air. He quickly opened the windows to ventilate and also discovered Ha-bin lying unconscious in her room. After helping his daughter wake up, Tae-soo found his wife sitting motionless in the living room with a vacant look in her eyes. He immediately understood that his wife had lost control and done something foolish. Faced with his wife's questioning, he began talking about their son's case from many years ago. Although she had tried to convince herself to believe that her son's death was not related to Ha-bin, deep down, she sometimes still had doubts. That doubt tormented the mother's spirit, causing her to be unable to endure it and leading to her reckless action. That night, Tae-soo, angry, blurted out in a moment of weakness, "Even if you have bad thoughts, you shouldn't drag our daughter into it." This sentence was heard by Ha-bin, who had just woken up at that moment. This made her misunderstand her father. Actually, Tae-soo's sentence didn't stop there. After his anger subsided, he tried to reassure his wife. "If you really leave us, Ha-bin will have to live alone. I'm her father, but she's never been truly close to me." Hearing this, his wife came to her senses, took Tae-soo's hand and urged him, "Please never tell Ha-bin what happened tonight. I don't want her to be hurt because of me." Because of that promise, Tae-soo decided to remain silent, even though this made his daughter increasingly distant from him. Meanwhile, the investigations into the deaths of Song Min-ae, the troubled young woman, and Soo-hyun, Ha-bin's close friend, remained unsolved. To shed light on the cases, Tae-soo realized he needed to focus on Yong Min, a delinquent youth connected to numerous suspicious activities. Captain Oh secured a warrant to search Yong Min's boarding house, and Tae-soo joined the search. They discovered a basement, a hangout for the troubled youths, filled with suspicious details. Tae-soo began to suspect a private connection between Seong Hui, the landlady, and Yong Min. When questioned, Seong Hui appeared nervous, insisting their relationship was purely landlord-tenant. However, as soon as the police left, Yong Min called her phone. Seong Hui hesitated to answer, infuriating him. Around the same time, Ha-bin, nearby, realized she had been followed for days by a man on a motorcycle wearing a helmet. To uncover his identity, she called the police, reporting a drunk driver on a motorcycle. The police responded quickly, intercepting the motorcycle and forcing the man to stop. With no other choice, he removed his helmet. Ha-bin stared at the man before her, a middle-aged stranger she had never met. Ha-bin demanded to know why he had been following her. The man confessed to being Song Min-ae's father. He explained he was searching for the person who harmed his daughter. He then questioned Ha-bin in return, suspecting Young-min of being the culprit and bringing up T-Su's secret release of Young-min, as well as Ha-bin's recent and persistent surveillance of the young man. The man couldn't understand the seemingly contradictory behavior of Ha-bin and her father towards Young-min. Ha-bin, however, offered no answers. She herself had only just learned of her father's release of Young-min. A few days later, one evening, Ha-bin confronted T-Su, demanding to know why he, a police officer, had secretly released Young-min. She suspected he was hiding something. T-Su, wanting to protect his daughter, was forced to lie. He claimed that Soo-hyun had been killed by her own wife. He released Young-min to cover up this truth. Ha-bin persisted, asking about the night her mother died. She wanted to know why he hadn't told her that he had seen her mother that evening. T-Su was forced to lie again, explaining that he was on the verge of a promotion and didn't want his wife's situation to jeopardize his career. Faced with her father's explanations, Ha-bin remained silent. She was unaware that, in the darkness, T-Su wept silently in anguish, unable to reveal the truth. The secrets surrounding the cases and the strained relationship between father and daughter became an increasingly tangled knot. T-Su continued his investigation. He sought out a troubled young woman to ask about Gang Min's whereabouts. T-Su didn't hesitate to exploit her vulnerability, implying that if she didn't cooperate, he would take her home, where she would face abuse from her stepfather. Under pressure, the girl confessed. She revealed that Young-min had feelings for Seong-hui, but she had another boyfriend. After discovering this, Young-min flew into a rage and assaulted Seong-hui. T-Su then produced a photograph of a man and asked the girl if he was Seong-hui's boyfriend. She confirmed it, leading T-Su to a suspicion the man in the photo was Jeon-T. That evening, Young-min called Seong-hui again, but she intentionally ignored him. Unexpectedly, Young-min appeared behind her, as he often did. He pulled her aside and demanded to know who really harmed Soo-hyun. It turned out Seong-hui had previously told Young-min that she witnessed Ha-bin's mother killing Soo-hyun. However, after his conversation in the woods with Ha-bin, Young-min knew that Ha-bin's mother was innocent. He then mentioned a name, Jeon-T. Young-min believed that Jeon-T, the teacher, was the real culprit, and that Seong-hui had used him to conceal her boyfriend from the police. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He felt foolish for ever considering running away with her. Betrayed by the woman he loved, Young-min declared he wouldn't accept defeat easily and wouldn't let Seong-hui and Jeon-T get away with it. T-Su then approached Jeon-T, bringing him to the police station for questioning. But as soon as he received a phone call, Jeon-T abruptly left without a word. The call was from his girlfriend, Seong-hui. When Jeon-T arrived at the designated meeting place, Young-min emerged from the shadows, calling him despicable and threatening to reveal the truth to the police. Jeon-T calmly replied that Young-min had no proof and the police would never believe a vagrant. Enraged, Young-min attacked Jeon-T. Seeing her boyfriend brutally beaten, a panicked Seong-hui rushed to embrace Young-min, begging him to stop. Watching the woman he loved weeping for another man filled Young-min with bitterness. That night, a man wearing a helmet met with Jeon-T. Jeon-T, however, asked him not to do anything to protect him. The man refused. It was revealed that he was Jeon-T's father. The truth was exposed. Jeon-T was the one who harmed the young woman. The man in the helmet, with a determined voice, told his son that he had a plan to protect him. After releasing Seong-hui and Jeon-T, Young-min contacted the police, claiming to have crucial information. He then contacted T-Su directly, requesting a meeting and promising to reveal everything he knew. Simultaneously, the man in the helmet met with Ha-bin and disclosed Young-min's location. Under the cover of darkness, Ha-bin arrived to meet Young-min before her father. Young-min was surprised, but before he could react, Ha-bin attacked him. She demanded to know if her mother had harmed Soo-hyun. Seeing Ha-bin's unwavering resolve, Young-min revealed the truth. Her mother had only mistakenly believed her daughter was responsible for the death and had hidden Soo Hyun's body. Shortly after, Tae-soo received a call from Young-min. He explained that he had told Ha-bin everything, otherwise she might have killed him. Fearing his daughter's impulsive actions, Tae-soo rushed to the meeting place. Upon arrival, he found Young-min lying dead in a pool of blood. Ha-bin stood at the scene, covered in blood. The area was swarming with police. Tae-soo faced a critical decision: reveal the truth or protect his daughter. Time was running out. Captain Oh led the police surrounding the scene. In a moment of panic, paternal instinct took over. Before Captain Oh could enter, Tae-soo pulled his daughter away from the scene. On the way home, Tae-soo questioned Ha-bin about her presence at the scene of Young-min's death. Ha-bin insisted that her father still doubted her. Tae-soo, with sincerity, declared that from now on, he would trust her completely. Back home, Ha-bin recounted her version of events. When she arrived, Young-min was already dead. She had gone to ask him about Soo Hyun's killer. Ha-bin's mother, believing her daughter was responsible for Soo Hyun's death, had hidden the body and, driven to madness, committed irrational acts. For Ha-bin, only by finding Soo Hyun's killer could she clear her mother's name. Listening to his daughter, Tae-soo hid her blood-stained clothes and the weapon in a drawer. He then rushed back to the crime scene. The police discovered 2 wounds on Young-min's body, inflicted by different weapons, suggesting 2 possible assailants. While examining the scene, Tae-soo found a necklace and recognized it as his wife's, a piece often worn by Ha-bin. As he contemplated what to do, a forensics officer approached. Tae-soo had no choice but to place the necklace into the evidence bag. The next day, at the police station, a meeting was held regarding Young-min's murder. Tae-soo learned from a colleague that Jeon-tae had met with Young-min on the day of his death, according to Seong-hwi's testimony. Upon hearing this, Tae-soo immediately left the station to confront Jeon-tae. He demanded to know why Jeon-tae had met with Young-min. Jeon-tae avoided the question, instead claiming to have seen Ha-bin at the scene of Young-min's death. Tae-soo, stern but composed, ordered Jeon-tae to come to the police station for further questioning. Upon returning to the police station, Captain Oh summoned Tae-soo for a conversation. He had just discovered Tae-soo's phone number in Young-min's call history. Captain Oh questioned why Tae-soo had concealed his communication with Young-min. Tae-soo explained that Young-min had contacted him to confess and arrange a meeting, but never showed up. However, Tae-soo made no mention of any suspicions related to his daughter, Ha-bin. Although dissatisfied with Tae-soo's independent actions, Captain Oh didn't press the matter further. Just then, an analyst casually revealed to Captain Oh that the reason Tae-soo acted alone and contacted Young-min might be related to his daughter. During the investigation, the analyst discovered that Ha-bin and Soo Hyun were close friends. When Young-min was interrogated, he also mentioned knowing Tae-soo. The analyst suspected the connection between the two stemmed from Ha-bin and suggested investigating her. However, another analyst, D-hong, interrupted and presented a recording of the call Young-min had made to the police station earlier. In the call, Young-min requested Tae-soo's phone number. D-hong argued that if Tae-soo and Young-min had actually known each other beforehand, they would already have each other's numbers. After hearing D-hong's reasoning, Captain Oh tentatively decided to trust Tae-soo and dismissed the suggestion to investigate Ha-bin. Meanwhile, Jeon-tae met with his father, Mr. Du-cheol. During their conversation, Mr. Du-cheol unexpectedly revealed that Ha-bin was the one who attacked Young-min, claiming he witnessed it himself. Mr. Du-cheol also advised Jeon-tae to distance himself from his girlfriend, because Seong-hwi had witnessed Jeon-tae disposing of the troubled girl, Song-min-a, that night. He worried that this woman would betray his son. However, Jeon-tae defended and trusted his girlfriend. He warned his father not to interfere in his affairs, or he would sever their relationship again. Despite this, to protect his son, Mr. Du-cheol acted on his own accord. The next day, he secretly met with Seong-hwi without telling his son. In front of Seong-hwi, Mr. Du-cheol pretended to be Song-min-a's father and threatened her, demanding she tell the truth about what happened the day Song-min-a was disposed of. He believed Seong-hwi, who managed the troubled teenagers living in the basement, knew the most about Song-min-a. In reality, a few days prior, Seong-hwi had received a call from Song-min-a. The girl said she would return to retrieve some belongings. However, at that time, Seong Hui's son had a fever, so she rushed him to the hospital. Therefore, she asked Jeon-tae to wait for Song Min-ae and let her in. Upon returning home that evening, Seong Hui was shocked to discover her boyfriend harming Song Min-ae. However, to protect him, Seong Hui lied to Mr. Du-cheol. She claimed she only provided Song Min-ae with the door code and that Young Min had been persistently searching for Song Min-ae that day, even threatening to harm her. Clearly, Seong Hui was attempting to shift the blame onto Young Min. Mr. Du-cheol questioned Jeon-tae, demanding to know if he had truly disposed of Song Min-ae. He couldn't comprehend how his son, a teacher, could commit such an act. Jeon-tae admitted his actions with a wry smile, suggesting perhaps it was hereditary. Meanwhile, as Tae-soo remained focused on the investigation, Ha-bin learned that her father had burned the ketchup-stained clothes and the knife he had hidden in his drawer. Simultaneously, Ha-bin began investigating the true identity of the helmeted man. Posing as a police officer, she contacted a youth support center and discovered that Song Min-ae's parents had passed away long ago. Afterward, Ha-bin went to the police station, falsely reporting a robbery by a motorcyclist. While the police were distracted, she secretly accessed information, ultimately revealing the man she sought was Mr. Du-cheol. That evening, Tae-soo called Ha-bin, informing her that someone had seen her at the scene of Young Min's murder. Her father's words made Ha-bin suspicious of Mr. Du-cheol. That night, she secretly went to the hotel where Mr. Du-cheol was staying. After searching, she discovered her own phone in Mr. Du-cheol's drawer. The phone triggered Ha-bin's memory of what happened in the forest a few days prior. That night, she had been chased by a driver. Panicked, Ha-bin jumped onto a small hill to hide. The driver, stepping out of the car, was Mr. Du-cheol. In her haste, Ha-bin had dropped her phone, and Mr. Du-cheol had picked it up. Shortly after, the phone received a message demanding Mr. Du-cheol answer the call, or the secret in the forest would be exposed. Besides the phone, Ha-bin also found a stack of envelopes in Mr. Du-cheol's room. The recipient on the envelopes was Jeon-tae. At this point, Ha-bin realized the connection between Mr. Du-cheol and Jeon-tae. That same night, Jeon-tae met with his girlfriend and explained that his father had visited her that morning. He also confessed that after his girlfriend left, he met with Young Min. Meanwhile, at the police station, investigators discovered surveillance footage showing Seong Hui near the scene at the time of Young Min's murder. Captain Oh decided to arrest her. During interrogation, Seong Hui protected her boyfriend and did not reveal the truth about the meeting between Jeon-tae and Young Min. However, shortly afterward, Jeon-tae confessed and brought evidence. Upon learning of his son's confession, Mr. Du-cheol became extremely anxious, insisting that Jeon-tae couldn't be Young Min's killer. He revealed that the previous night, he had witnessed Ha-bin standing next to Young Min's body, covered in blood. The investigation at the police station took a new turn. Surveillance footage captured a motorcycle near the scene on the night of Young Min's murder. Captain Oh suspected the rider was Jeon-tae's accomplice. However, Tae-soo recognized Ha-bin as the passenger on the motorcycle. Upon returning home, Tae-soo shared his deduction with his daughter. He believed that Ha-bin was present in the forest on the day Song Min-ae was murdered, not as the perpetrator, but as a witness. After the incident, Ha-bin didn't immediately clear her name with her father. Tae-soo concluded that his daughter wanted to find Soo-hyun's killer before him and deal with the person herself. After his analysis, Tae-soo asked his daughter about the identity of the motorcycle driver. However, Ha-bin refused to answer. Suddenly, Tae-soo pulled out handcuffs. That same night, Tae-soo received a text message containing a photo of his daughter covered in syrup, standing next to Young Min's body. The photo was sent by Mr. Chen as a threat, demanding Tae-soo release his son or he would make the picture public. Just minutes earlier, the son of the man in the helmet had turned himself in at the police station, confessing to Young Min's murder. However, the analysts didn't believe Jeon-tae's confession. The crime scene showed signs of two perpetrators, and the evidence suggested a premeditated murder, not a crime of passion as Jeon-tae claimed. A female analyst pulled up a photo of Mr. Chin and a girl on a motorcycle. Jeon-tae reacted strangely to the photo. The analyst suspected the real perpetrator was the man on the motorcycle, and the girl riding pillion was the owner of the necklace found at the crime scene. Su knew the girl on the motorcycle was his daughter, but he remained silent in front of his colleagues. While Jun-Tae was being questioned, Ha-bin arrived at the police station, and Su met with his daughter secretly. He showed her the photo and urged her to be honest about the identity of the man in the helmet, warning her that Ha-bin would eventually be investigated and considered a suspect. However, Ha-bin refused to talk, instead demanding her father share any updates on the investigation with her. To protect his daughter, Su interrogated Jun-Tae himself. Su believed Jun-Tae wasn't the killer, but was covering for someone. When Jun-Tae refused to tell the truth, Su brought in his girlfriend. In front of both of them, he laid out his analysis. Su suspected the real killer was Seong-Hae, and Jun-Tae, seeing her flee the scene, decided to take the fall for the woman he loved. To protect her, Jun-Tae continued to confess, even claiming he killed Yang Min because the victim had discovered his involvement in Song Min-ae's death and needed to be silenced. To verify Jun-Tae's story, that evening Su and his colleagues went to a wooded area where Jun-Tae claimed he had buried Song Min-ae's body. However, upon arrival, they discovered a freshly dug hole and the body gone. The person who dug the hole wasn't Jun-Tae, but his father, Mr. Chin. To protect his guilty son, Mr. Chin had decided to move and completely destroy Song Min-ae's remains, which hadn't yet decomposed. Mr. Chin hesitated for a moment, then picked up an axe, planning to dismember the body. Only then, he believed, could he ensure no one would discover the truth. Using surveillance footage, the police identified Mr. Chin and concluded he was Jun-Tae's accomplice. After investigating, the police discovered the father-son relationship between Mr. Chin and Jun-Tae, but Mr. Chin's whereabouts remained unknown. Simultaneously, to pressure Su into releasing his son, Mr. Chin sent a photo to the police showing Ha-bin at the crime scene. However, the photo was torn in half, revealing only the deceased Yang Min. Accompanying the photo, Mr. Chin continued contacting Su, urging him to release his son immediately. Su explained that Jun-Tae had surrendered himself, and he didn't know what else he could do in the current situation. However, Mr. Chin remained unconcerned. He firmly believed his son was innocent and demanded Su release him by any means necessary. For Su, the only way to protect his daughter was to overturn Jun-Tae's confession and prove someone else was responsible for the deaths of Yang Min and Song Min-ae. Only then could he legitimately release Jun-Tae. Su still considered Jun-Tae's girlfriend, Seong-Hae, a suspect in both cases. Coincidentally, the three deceased individuals, including Soo-hyun, had all lived in the basement of Seong-Hae's house. Furthermore, Seong-Hae's husband had passed away, and she inherited the house after his death. The investigation revealed that all four individuals had lived in the same place before their deaths, making Seong-Hae a difficult suspect to dismiss. Su interrogated Jun-Tae again. Seeing his girlfriend implicated, Jun-Tae finally confessed. He told Su that he killed Song Min-ae because he tried to rape her, and when she resisted, he became violent. During his confession, Jun-Tae was filled with remorse, almost sobbing, giving the impression of telling the truth. However, based on forensic analysis, Su still doubted Jun-Tae. Captain Ao countered Su's assessment, and the two analysts also suggested that Su might be wrong in his analysis this time. While the case reached an impasse, the relationship between Su and his daughter began to change. To prevent his daughter from further self-destruction, that evening, Su decided to tell her the truth. He gave her a USB drive containing a recording of his late wife's therapy sessions. It contained her words about the truth Ha-bin longed to know. Listening to her mother's recording, Ha-bin learned that her mother had always been tormented by the fact that her younger brother had fallen into a ravine. Her mother had even suspected her, just as her father had. Her decision to divorce was to end that suspicion, and her decision to end her life stemmed from the guilt of suspecting her own daughter. After listening to her mother's recording, Ha-bin wept uncontrollably. Late at night, Su returned home and found his daughter sleeping peacefully. A long absent peace seemed to settle over him. When Ha-bin woke up, Su apologized to his daughter. He confessed that if he hadn't been the first to suspect her, his wife wouldn't have been implicated and wouldn't have suspected Ha-bin as well. Ha-bin asked her father why he hadn't shown her the recordings sooner. Su replied sincerely, explaining that he didn't want her to hate him and that he cherished the hard-won opportunity to live with his daughter. The next morning, Tae-soo prepared breakfast and was about to knock on his daughter's door when he saw her already dressed in her uniform, her face bearing a serene, liberated expression. In his car, Ha-bin told Tae-soo she had decided to let go and no longer sought revenge for her mother. She didn't want to destroy the life her mother had hoped she would have. Tae-soo promised his daughter he would catch the culprit. At school, Ha-bin interacted naturally with her friends. She had decided to return to being a normal student. She heard her friend Soo Hyun's voice through her earphones. Looking out into the schoolyard, Ha-bin seemed to see Soo Hyun waving to her. A faint smile touched her lips. Simultaneously, at the forest where Song Min-ae's body was initially discovered, Captain Oh found Song Min-ae's corpse, which had been hidden by Mr. Chin. The autopsy report confirmed that Song Min-ae hadn't been strangled. This completely contradicted Jun-Tae's confession. The necklace found at the scene was also investigated, revealing that it was purchased by Tae-soo's wife. Captain Oh suddenly recalled the female analyst's earlier suspicions about Ha-bin. He decided to meet with her to explore any further reasons behind her suspicions. The analyst led Captain Oh to the forensic lab. The forensic doctor had examined a broken cup and confirmed that the DNA on it perfectly matched the necklace found at the crime scene. The analyst, previously suspicious of Ha-bin, had deliberately invited her for tea to discuss the case further. Ha-bin had been meticulous, perfectly concealing her knowledge of Yang Min. However, she had accidentally broken a cup, and now the matching DNA evidence left no doubt. Ha-bin had been at the crime scene the night Yang Min died. Meanwhile, Tae-soo was interrogating Jun-tae and presented the Song Min-ae autopsy report. Upon seeing the report confirming that Song Min-ae hadn't been strangled, Jun-tae became distraught. He confessed to Tae-soo that he had drunk a little alcohol the night of the incident. Upon waking up, he found Song Min-ae on the bed, deceased. His initial reaction was that he hadn't done it. However, Seong-hae suddenly barged in and suggested that the alcohol might have impaired his memory, implying he could have killed her without knowing, just like his father. That night, Jun-tae believed his girlfriend and didn't report it to the police. Tae-soo was about to reach a conclusion when Captain Oh called him out and showed him a picture of Ha-bin at Yang Min's crime scene. Captain Oh declared that Ha-bin would now be considered a suspect in Yang Min's case and that Tae-soo must withdraw from the investigation. In front of his superior, Tae-soo argued vehemently, claiming the photograph wasn't direct evidence and hoping to continue the investigation. During the interrogation, Jun-tae began to doubt the case after an analysis from Tae-soo. Jun-tae recalled that on the night Song Min-ae died, Seong-hae acted rather strangely. Jun-tae requested a private conversation with Tae-soo. Captain Oh decided to allow Tae-soo 2 hours for questioning. Meanwhile, the police discovered that the photo was sent by Mr. Chin. Captain Oh suspected Tae-soo was threatened by Mr. Chin and therefore changed his attitude, firmly refusing to allow Tae-soo to participate in the interrogation any further. Simultaneously, they brought Ha-bin to the police station as a suspect. At this time, Mr. Chin called the police and stated that on the day Song Min-ae died, he had witnessed Ha-bin at the scene. After questioning Ha-bin's classmates, investigators discovered that on the night Song Min-ae died, Ha-bin had secretly left the hotel rooftop. Therefore, in both the Yang Min and Song Min-ae cases, Ha-bin became a suspect. In the interrogation room, the investigator mentioned the photo of Ha-bin appearing next to Yang Min's body. Ha-bin reacted extremely calmly, admitting she had kidnapped Yang Min and held him at gunpoint, but did not kill him. When asked about her presence at the scene where Song Min-ae's body was discovered in the woods, Ha-bin calmly replied that she was only a witness. The investigator pressed further, asking why she would create an alibi if she was just a witness. Ha-bin responded quickly, saying she was worried about being suspected. However, the investigator discovered inconsistencies in Ha-bin's answers. Before Song Min-ae was killed, she had created an alibi. This suggested a premeditated murder. The calmer Ha-bin remained, the more suspicious the police became. They began to believe that Ha-bin was responsible for both Song Min-ae and Yang Min's deaths, but still couldn't determine her motive. While Ha-bin was being interrogated to help his daughter escape suspicion, Tae-soo met Seong-hae that evening and requested confirmation of details from Jun-tae's testimony. Seong-hae confirmed that on the night Song Min-ae died, she did not see her. Tae-soo continued questioning Seong-hae's son, and the boy said that on the day of the incident, he and his mother had met Song Min-ae. With the boy's recorded statement, Tae-soo returned to the police station and shared his analysis. He suspected that Seong-hae was the one who killed Song Min-ae. He believed Seong-hae, after killing Song Min-ae, framed her innocent boyfriend, Jun-tae. Furthermore, Tae-soo believed Seong-hae's motive was money. When Song Min-ae left home and joined the gang, she carried the money stolen from Yang-min. While Yang-min was running away, he also carried money. However, after the two crime scenes were investigated, no money bags were found. Hearing this, Captain Ao immediately took Seong-hae to the police station. However, Seong-hae remained silent. The police were forced to use Seong-hae's son as a connection. The boy confessed that he accidentally killed Song Min-ae. On the day Song Min-ae came home late, he saw his sister looking tired and unhappy, so he added some candies to her drink. A few days earlier, he had heard Yang-min say that this type of candy would make people happy. He just wanted his sister to be happier, but unexpectedly, as soon as Song Min-ae finished drinking it, she collapsed. The case seemed to be solved. If Seong-hae's son was the one who killed Song Min-ae, then Ha-bin was innocent. Ha-bin was released. After leaving the police station, Ha-bin said she was a little hungry. Tae-soo was very moved when he heard this. This was the first time in a long time that his daughter had proactively suggested going out to eat with him. Tae-soo drove to find a restaurant. However, at this moment, the police station called to say that they had to bring Ha-bin back. Just now, a girl living in Seong-hae's house had provided the police with a video. The video showed Ha-bin's mother digging a hole on the mountain to bury Soo Hyun's body. Based on this evidence, the police concluded that Ha-bin's mother was the one who killed Soo Hyun and believed that Ha-bin approached Yang-min, Song Min-ae, and others with malicious intent. Therefore, suspicions about Ha-bin grew stronger. Captain Ao questioned Tae-soo about this video. At the same time, the police received information about Mr. Chin's whereabouts. Captain Ao immediately led the team outside and discovered that Mr. Chin had been near the scene of the Yang-min incident. Seong-hae was also present at the scene, and there seemed to be an argument between her and Mr. Chin. When Mr. Chin saw the police, he immediately ran away. The police tried to chase him, but Mr. Chin disappeared. Afterwards, Seong-hae handed the analysts a bag. She said she found it in another of Yang-min's hiding places, hoping it would help solve the case. A girl also gave the police a video, saying that Seong-hae had asked her to deliver it. The reason was to prove that she and her son were not being unjustly suspected by the police. In the bag was Yang-min's phone. The messages on the phone showed that Yang-min had blackmailed Ha-bin's mother, saying that she had witnessed Ha-bin disposing of Soo Hyun's body. Because of these messages, Captain Ao planned to issue an arrest warrant for Ha-bin for the murder of Soo Hyun. At this time, Tae-soo brought Mr. Chin to the police station. It turned out that tonight, Tae-soo had helped Mr. Chin escape. Tae-soo hoped that Mr. Chin could convince his son to change his mind and not foolishly take the blame for Seong-hae. For Tae-soo, proving Seong-hae was the murderer was the only way to clear his daughter's name. Captain Ao requested that Mr. Chin be interrogated separately before being allowed to see his son. However, this did not mean that suspicions about Ha-bin would completely disappear. The analyst examined Ha-bin's computer and found that it contained a wealth of information on related individuals, from Yang-min and Song Min-ae to police officers in the police department and others. Ha-bin clearly had gathered all the information on these people. Not only that, Ha-bin also thoroughly investigated her father, from the cases he handled, his suspicions, the progress of the cases he shared, and the plans related to her father, all of which were meticulously researched by Ha-bin. Furthermore, Ha-bin even accurately predicted the development of events, anticipating that her father would initially suspect her, but would then choose to believe her during the interrogation. After finding the documents, Tae-soo continued to defend his daughter. However, the analyst began to suspect that Ha-bin might actually be the killer of Soo Hyun. Her true motive wasn't revenge for her mother, but to eliminate everyone who knew the truth. If this was true, Tae-soo had fallen into a trap set by his daughter from the beginning, and he was even helping her carry out her plan to escape punishment without realizing it. On a different note, under the cover of night, Sung-hee carried a heavy bag into a hotel. The bag contained nothing other than the money Song Min-ae had taken from Hang-min a few days prior. In reality, Seong-hee, despite her seemingly frail and innocent demeanor, had perfectly deceived everyone. The night of the incident, Song Min-a met with Seong-hee. Song Min-a knew that Yang Min had blackmailed a woman, driving her to suicide. However, Song Min-a also knew about the shady relationship between Seong-hee and Yang Min, and suspected that Yang Min wasn't intelligent enough to devise the blackmail scheme. Therefore, Song Min-a believed Seong-hee was the mastermind behind it. She demanded a cut of the money from Seong-hee, threatening to expose the truth otherwise. To keep everything under wraps, Seong-hee drugged and ultimately eliminated Song Min-a. Her actions were witnessed by her son. Afterward, Seong-hee coached her son on how to lie to conceal the crime. But Seong-hee's crimes didn't end with Song Min-a's murder. She was also responsible for the death of Sonyeon, Ha-bin's best friend. Sonyeon, along with other delinquent teenagers like Yang Min, lived in Seong-hee's basement. They were coerced by Yang Min into illegal activities such as drug dealing. When Sonyeon refused to cooperate, Yang Min locked her in a dark room. At that time, Sonyeon pleaded with Seong-hee to let her out, but Seong-hee, despite her gentle appearance, coldly refused. Ultimately, it was Seong-hee's son, unable to bear witnessing Sonyeon's confinement, who secretly unlocked the room. The day Sonyeon escaped, she overheard a conversation between Seong-hee and Yang Min. She discovered that Seong-hee was feigning innocence to escape the situation. Sonyeon contacted Ha-bin and pleaded for help. However, that evening, Seong-hee found Sonyeon before she could call the police. Seong-hee seized an opportune moment and eliminated her. When Sonyeon's mother overheard the conversation between her daughter and Sonyeon, worried, she followed her daughter. She witnessed Sonyeon seemingly going to reunite with her grandparents. Believing her daughter was responsible, she decided to bury the body to protect her. However, Seong-hee, lurking nearby, hatched a new plan. She contacted Yang Min, falsely claiming to have seen Ha-bin dispose of Sonyeon, intending to manipulate Yang Min into blackmailing Ha-bin's mother. Currently, the police remain unsuspicious of Seong-hee, focusing solely on Ha-bin. The analyst continues to interrogate Ha-bin, presenting video evidence showing her mother hiding Sonyeon's body in the trunk of a car. They suspect Ha-bin deliberately took her mother out that night to help dispose of the body. However, Ha-bin remains as calm as ever, pointing out the lack of evidence directly implicating her. At this moment, the police discover surveillance footage from the location where Sonyeon was harmed. Upon reviewing it, they find that Ha-bin's mother had purchased and destroyed all video recordings from a year prior. Based solely on this, Captain Oh concludes that Ha-bin is undoubtedly the murderer and asks Tae-soo to convince his daughter to confess. However, in the interrogation room, Tae-soo doesn't mention the suspicions but instead affirms his determination to catch the real killer and prove his daughter's innocence. After everything that has happened, Tae-soo believes that his daughter may be different from other children, but she is absolutely not capable of committing such a crime. Elsewhere, to investigate Song Min-a's case, the analyst brings Seong-hee's mother and son to the police station. Prior to this, Seong-hee's son had confessed to putting drugs in Song Min-a's drink, accidentally causing her death. However, the analysts begin to notice that during the questioning, Seong-hee subtly guides her son's responses. Furthermore, before entering the interrogation room, the boy discreetly warns the analyst against eating food prepared by his mother. In addition, Junta, who is in custody, also expresses suspicion towards Seong-hee. Consequently, the analyst and Captain Oh begin to shift their suspicion onto Seong-hee. Tae-soo also expresses his suspicion of Seong-hee, theorizing that all three cases Song Min-a's, Sonyeon's, and Yang Min's are connected to her. To gather evidence of Seong-hee's crimes, Tae-soo returned home and had a frank conversation with his daughter. Ha-bin recalled that after Sonyeon's death, her mother seemed to have started writing letters. Also, before her death, her mother frequently visited the temple to pay respects to her brother's remains. To investigate further, Tae-soo and his daughter went to the temple. Unexpectedly, they discovered a memorial for Sonyeon. Next to the urn containing his remains was a letter written by Ha-bin's mother. In the letter, Ha-bin's mother expressed suspicion that her own daughter was responsible for Sonyeon's death. However, her mother later realized that Ha-bin had been writing numerous notes about how to treat her depression. As a result, her mother gradually dismissed her suspicions about her daughter. To uncover the truth, her mother went to the intersection where Sonyeon died to check the surveillance cameras. Finally, in the video footage from the night of the incident, Ha Bin's mother spotted Seong-hee. From that point on, she was certain that Seong-hee was the one who killed Sonyeon and was also the one threatening her. She went to confront Seong-hee. But unexpectedly, Seong-hee threatened her, saying that if Ha Bin knew her mother suspected her of killing someone and hiding the body of her best friend, it would devastate her. Seong-hee's words were a real threat to Ha Bin's mother. Fearing her daughter's pain, she didn't have the courage to tell her about her suspicions. Later, consumed by regret, she made a terrible mistake. Tragically, by that time, she had thrown away all the surveillance video footage. She had collected the evidence that could prove Seong-hee was at the scene of the crime. Ha Bin was furious with her father's attitude. She believed that the priority wasn't arresting Seong-hee, but avenging her mother's death. She even thought that her father's initial suspicion of her had led her mother to suspect her as well, and that this was indirectly responsible for her mother's death. Therefore, if her father felt any guilt, he should choose to take direct revenge. At the same time, the police discovered the cash Seong-hee had hidden in a hotel. It was Yang Min's money. However, when questioned, Seong-hee continued to feign innocence, claiming that although she had taken the money, she hadn't harmed Yang Min. To force a confession, the police planned to bring in Seong-hee's son. However, they discovered that Ha Bin had taken the boy. Tae-soo realized his daughter's actions were motivated by revenge. Indeed, after taking Seong-hee's son, Ha Bin took advantage of the police mobilizing their search efforts to sneak a knife into the police station, intending to kill Seong-hee herself. However, at that moment, Tae-soo appeared. He tried to stop her, even going so far as to grab the knife from her hand with his bare hands, begging her not to do something foolish. Tae-soo had never abandoned his daughter. In the past, he hadn't dared to confront his suspicions, leaving his daughter in his wife's care. Now, with a gentle tone, Tae-soo asked his daughter if she had been the one who caused her brother to fall off the cliff. Upon hearing this question, Ha Bin finally burst into tears. After all these years, her father had finally asked her this question. Through her tears, Ha Bin replied that she hadn't caused her brother's fall. Tae-soo didn't hesitate to believe her and repeatedly apologized. Faced with her father finally believing her, Ha Bin couldn't hold back her tears and decided to abandon her revenge plan. At the park, the analyst found Seong-hee's son safe and sound. Ha Bin had never intended to harm the boy. Next came Seong-hee's interrogation. In front of Tae-soo, Seong-hee continued to justify herself, trying to shift the blame onto Ha Bin. However, Tae-soo showed Seong-hee a video. The video showed that Ha Bin arrived at the scene only after Sonyeon had been harmed. Therefore, she couldn't be the culprit. This video was recovered from Yang Min's phone after it had been deleted. Ironically, the video had been filmed by Seong-hee on the night of the incident using Yang Min's phone. Seeing her guilt about to be exposed, Seong-hee tried to blame Yang Min. But Tae-soo then presented surveillance footage showing Seong-hee as the first person to arrive at the scene that night. Therefore, the person who killed Sonyeon and recorded the video could only be Seong-hee. This surveillance footage was found by Ha Bin in their house. It turned out that her mother hadn't destroyed all the surveillance videos. Furthermore, Seong-hee's son confessed that his mother had poisoned the food of their tenants. With that, Seong-hee's crimes were proven. The truth of the case was revealed. However, Ha Bin wasn't happy. She feared she would become someone like Seong-hee, willing to exploit loved ones to achieve her goals. Tae-soo firmly stated that his daughter and Seong-hee were absolutely not the same kind of people. He was willing to wait for his daughter to emerge from the darkness and find herself again. Afterward, Tae-soo resigned from the police force and returned home, determined to start over as a good father. Not long after, Ha Bin's birthday arrived. Tae-soo ordered her a birthday cake and gave her a watch. The scenery outside the window was peaceful and beautiful, just like the increasingly warm relationship between father and daughter.